All right, guys, what's up? So we are doing another question and answer session today. Let me go back. My name's Brandon. I'm a used car dealer. And what I like to do in these videos is basically grab some questions from the comments that we've gotten this week and answer them for you. So it's a lot easier for me to be able to answer them on a video for you, be able to just talk about them, than it is for me to give detailed responses in the comment section. So we've decided to do this. Maybe someday we'll do like a live chat or whatever it's called, live stream, whatever, and get some questions answered there. But right now it's the best way we know how to do it, so this is what we're going to do. So let's get right into it, and here are some of your questions. Actually, forgot to say, if you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and just thank you so much for the support. It really means the world to us. Like I said, we have to do this because you're asking so many questions in the comments that we can't get to all of them. So now we can get into the questions. All right, the first one comes in from Matt Ingold, and it says, can you go through the pros and cons of buying a used car from a dealership versus buying from an individual private party? So there are some good and some bad things about buying from each, like the question says. So my preference on you purchasing a car would always be to go through an individual versus a dealer. The positive that a individual is going to have over a dealer is that you're going to know the history of the car a lot better than you would had you bought from a dealer. Now, when a used car dealer like myself goes to these auctions, we buy these cars and we don't really know the history as far as maintenance and stuff. Now, we can do Carfaxes on these cars, but a Carfax only tells you so much. It'll tell you the brands on the cars. It'll tell you if any maintenance was done at a place that actually records to Carfax. And a lot of small mechanics don't do that. So when you buy a car from a used car dealer, you actually don't know how the car was maintained before that used car dealer got it. With an individual, especially if you know the individual, then you're able to ask them questions about what's been done. Has the timing belt been done? How often did you change the oil in the car? What kind of major issues have you had to deal with, and are they still occurring in the vehicle? Another positive that you'll get from an individual is that the price should be a lot cheaper. Now, I know right now everyone knows that prices of used cars are crazy high, so what I'm hearing is a lot of individuals are charging the moon for trying to sell their vehicles too. But if you go through all of it, even right now, if you buy a car from an individual, you still might be able to get a good deal, because not every individual follows the used car market. They don't know that the price of vehicles is crazy, but a lot of them are going to post stuff online. So if you're not fast about acting on being able to buy a car from the individual when you see it, then it's going to be bought from someone else. Any deals out there are going to be snatched up really quickly. So let's talk about the positive now from buying from a dealer. So when you go and buy from a dealer, you can shop around and you can actually find exactly usually what you want. If you have a certain make, model, year, then there's going to be a dealer that has that car out there. Usually when you go online and you're looking for a particular car, if there's 10 listings of this car online, 9 of them are going to be dealers. So you'll be able to find that there. Another positive from buying from a dealer is they're actually going to be regulated by some kind of entity. Now here in North Carolina, it's the DMV, and it's going to be the DMV in every other state. But the laws that we have in North Carolina, very strict about how our paperwork needs to be done. So we are held to a standard that we have to have our paperwork right before the individual will actually get the car. So that's a protection that you're going to have from a dealer. Now, I know there's some shady dealers out there, and they bend the rules, and they'll cheat on this paperwork, and they'll do stuff that's not lawful. But a majority of dealers do the things the right way, and that the way that they're supposed to, so they don't get in trouble with the DMV in their particular state. So you're going to have that benefit when you do go buy from a dealer, that they actually have to have the paperwork right when they sell you the vehicle. So another advantage that you're going to have when you're buying from a dealer is you're usually able to do all the paperwork in-house. You don't have to go anywhere. You can get the car registered with the dealer. And when you're buying from an individual, then that's not so easy. A lot of times you have to get the individual, both parties, to a bank where they can get it notarized. If you're in a state that you have to get the title notarized, you have to make sure the individual has the title. You actually have to make sure that there's an easy way to give and receive payment. So a lot of times that will happen at the bank too, where we'll have a cashier's check, and then you'll be able to transfer it straight to the seller, and then you can have the seller give you the title, and you can do all in one exchange there. But you have to get both parties to a separate location, where with the dealer you don't have to do that. So now a big downside from buying from a dealer is it's going to cost a lot more. It's just the way it is, because dealers are going to have overhead. They're going to have buildings they have to pay for. They have utilities they have to pay for. They have license they have to pay for. So all of this overhead is going to get charged to the customer. Also, a lot of times they'll have fees like doc fees. They'll have they'll try to sell you warranties, a bunch of stuff that you don't want to have to deal with. You don't want to have to buy. Where you're not going to get that with an individual, and usually just the overall price when you're purchasing with a dealer versus an individual. The individual is going to be a lot cheaper. So that's a big benefit to going with an individual over a dealer. Now, one last thing I'll say is a negative about buying from an individual is that this individual doesn't have a business that they stay at. So if you buy a car from an individual and the title's wrong, or they give you the wrong title, you don't check the paperwork, or they don't give you the title and say, hey, I'll just give it to you later. Once you give them the money and you get the car, the vehicle, whatever you're buying, they could disappear. You don't know who it is. You have a phone number, but they don't have to answer it. They don't have to reply back to your text. But you're gonna, if you have an issue with a dealer, you have places you can go. You have entities that you can contact. You have the DMV you can go to. There are things that you can do if there's a problem with the dealer after the purchase. If there's an issue with a car after you buy from an individual, they're not going to have anything to do with it. And a lot of times, I mean, dealers are the same way, especially if they're selling stuff as is. If there's no warranty on it, they can just say, hey, I mean, that's your problem. But if it's a serious issue as far as like paperwork or whatever, then that dealer is going to have to get that problem solved. Whereas an individual, they're out, they're done. They got their money, they don't care anymore. All right, next question comes in from Frank of VA. And Frank says, I live in Virginia, and I see online a West Virginia dealer has substantially lower prices on the same car. Are there any things to keep in mind when you buy in another state? Thanks, great channel. Thanks, Frank, for the compliment. Yes, there's things to consider. So every state handles titles a different way. So just for instance, I'm in North Carolina, and a lot of times we'll get South Carolina customers, and vice versa. I've got a buddy who has a dealership in South Carolina, and he gets a lot of North Carolina customers. So if you're a North Carolina resident and you buy a car in South Carolina is not responsible to do emissions inspections because they just don't do them. So dealers in South Carolina don't have to do any kind of safety, any kind of emissions inspections, but North Carolina people do have to have that to be able to register a vehicle. So in this instance, if a customer from North Carolina goes down, buys this cheap car from a South Carolina dealer and takes it back up to North Carolina, but that car won't pass an emissions check, then that customer who bought that car from that South Carolina dealer is responsible for it. The South Carolina dealer is not. Their hands are washed of it. They're done with that car, and that customer that bought this car is now on the hook with North Carolina to get that car inspected before they can actually get it registered in North Carolina. So there's a lot of things you need to check. You need to make sure that your state will accept whatever kind of paperwork that dealer is trying to how they write it up, because there's even certain states that need certain types of paperwork to be able to register their vehicles before you can get it registered in that state. So all I would say with that is just make sure you do your homework and know what paperwork you need and what kind of inspections that you need before going to buy a car from an out-of-state dealer and then bringing it back and trying to get it registered in your state. All right, this next question comes in from Spice Master 2. What about buying from a third party? Wait or not? So, we talked about it earlier, some pros and cons of buying from an individual, but the thing about it is you will get a better price from an individual, or you should, even though prices are elevated across the market. So there's a lot of individuals that know prices are elevated, so they're charging more for the cars that they're trying to sell. But you can still look around at individuals right now, because if someone has a vehicle and they're still trying to sell it for a fair price, there's a lot of people out there, they just want to get rid of their car. They're not going to really follow along with the market, because they're not having to pay wholesale prices for this vehicle. They've owned this vehicle for 10 years, so they don't really care what they paid for it 10 years ago, whereas a dealer right now will care what they paid for it a few weeks ago at auction, which the prices were crazy, so now they have to sell it for a crazy price. So yeah, you can absolutely look right now for individuals trying to sell cars for good deals, but I will tell you, if you find a good deal, you just have to bounce on it, because if there's a good deal out there, it's going to get bought the second it gets posted. So yeah, you can absolutely look for cars right now from individuals, but if you find a good deal, you have to buy it as soon as you see it, because it will get bought the second after you walk away from it if you don't buy it. All right, I'm not going to get this name right. I'm going to try it though. The next question comes in from Shalmanzer. Close, maybe. Do you have a YouTube fan discount? Yes, I do. All right, next question comes in from Wyatt Derp. I'm thinking of buying a used truck. Would I get a better deal from a city dealer, a small town dealer, or would there be no difference? So I get this question actually a lot, whether someone should buy from a big dealer, a small dealer. Should somebody go into a city to buy a vehicle where there are a lot of dealers, or go outside of a city where there's not that many dealers and they're smaller? Generally, you're going to get a better deal from a dealer that's outside of a bigger city, in a smaller town usually, just because they have less overhead. And that's not to say that these smaller dealers that don't have as much overhead can still price gouge. They can do that. So do your homework. You might find a good deal from a big dealer. You might find a good deal from a smaller dealer. You just have to research, look at the prices online, and look across. But generally speaking, because the smaller dealers are going to have lower overhead, they're going to be able to give you a better deal than a bigger dealer in a larger city, because bigger cities, it costs more to operate in, so that dealer is going to have more overhead. It's going to cost them more to be able to sell their vehicles. All right, this next question comes in from Ken B. I don't like cars, and I have zero desire to buy a car except that I need one. What is the best, most reliable car I can get for $10,000? My car needs a new transmission and ready to throw it away and get another car. I can wait maybe till the end of the year, hopefully. So if you can wait till the end of the year, that's great. But for this question, I only have one answer, and I always have one answer. I always get the question of what's the most reliable car I can get for not a lot of money, and the answer is a Toyota Camry. If you're looking for an SUV, maybe try to find an older model RAV4, but for a four-door sedan car, just get me from A to B and last as long as possible, Toyota Camry is the only way to go. For that amount of money right now, you can get like anywhere from like a 2006 to probably a 2009 with 150,000 miles is probably around what you're going to pay for it. The newer models, it'll have around 150,000 miles, but the older models you can get probably somewhere close to 100,000 miles for those, and they run forever. All you gotta do is change the oil. I've got a family member I bought, I mean, it's an older one, but it was like a 99 Camry. Oh, it was over 5 years ago for $300, and sold it to her for exactly what we had in it, and she's still driving it every day now, and she hasn't done anything to it. So Camrys, that's the only car I'd ever recommend to anyone if you want a sedan. Under $10,000, best car you can buy. All right, the next one comes in from Brandon B. Brandon, thank you for this content. Are you planning on creating an introduction for your videos? How long have you been selling cars? We're not doing an introduction to be able to put on every one of the videos, but we are going to work on an intro video for the channel. That's on the to-do list. Right now we're trying to put together a studio, so like a video like this looks better. We're also working on a podcast room at my shop. We're going to be starting a podcast in the near future. Really excited about that. But yeah, it's in the works. It's on our list of things to do. Yes, we will be getting it out hopefully soon. But we've got so much going on. But yes. Oh, and the second part of the question: how long have you been selling cars? I've been doing it now for about 12 years. Me and my wife have been married for 10 years, and I was doing it a little bit before that. So right at about 12 years. Actually have some good stories about how I first got started. So that's not for this video, but hopefully eventually I'll be able to do a video where I tell you guys exactly how I got started, some of the funny stories that happened in the beginning, but and a bunch of stories that just happened along the way. So that's definitely coming, but it's not for this question and answer session, but we'll get that done soon. All right, next one comes from Mark E. Hi there, Brandon. I'm enjoying your content here in the UK. Can you tell me how you transport these cars back to your lot? All right, so it's really cool that we've got people that watch us from other countries. That is awesome, actually. So yeah, if you ever leave us a comment and you're from a different country than the US, please let me know, because it's really cool to know that anything that I'm saying, anything that I'm doing is getting somewhere else in the world. It blows my mind that it's even possible. Okay, what was the question? Can you tell me how to transport these cars back to your lot? So we have 6 or 7 auctions that we go to, and even I think 2 more than that than we actually check every week. We check the run list to see if they're even worth going to. A lot of them aren't, so getting off topic. But we have 2 auctions that are very close to us that our guys can actually go, and I help out too. We can go and pick up cars and just drive them back to our lot because they're within 15-20 minutes. Now all the other auctions that I go to are about an hour away or more. So we have a transporter that we actually contract out and we pay to go pick them up. So he's got a 3-car trailer, and a lot of the auctions that you actually see from the videos that I do, they are ones that are farther away from our shop. So all those cars, after I buy them, I will usually just leave them and let him know. I'll text him and let him know how many cars I got from a specific auction, and he'll be able to go pick them up within a few days and just drop them off at our lot. All right, next question comes in from Sparky Dog Sparky. If you successfully bid on 100 cars, on average, how many of them would be dogs you couldn't sell due to mechanical problems? So we have actually a loss rate that we track on our cars. So if I buy 100 cars, our loss rate is generally hovering right now around 8%. It's higher than I want it to be. Traditionally, it has been 5%. So on 100 cars, about 8 of them are turds. But I want it to be 5 turds out of 100 cars. And that doesn't necessarily mean that there's 92 good cars. It just means that there was 8 of them that we lost money on. There's quite a few of them still that we'd break even on, which is not good either, but breaking even is way better than a loss, obviously. Now, since the pandemic, since cars have been harder to buy, since it's been that we've had to gamble a little bit more on cars and go out of our comfort zone because there are so few cars at these auctions, our loss rate has gone up. Like I said, it's 8%, but traditionally it's been 5%. I'm thinking now that we've been able to buy more cars over the next year, we're going to be able to get back to around that 5% rate. But I mean, honestly, for a used car dealer and the stuff that we buy, which is the $5,000 and under range, for us to be under 10%, I'm thrilled as I can be, because I believe that a lot of dealers that buy even more expensive stuff probably aren't even in that range. Now, it's very helpful that we have Alex, which is our mechanic that's on staff, because he saves us a ton of money. There would be other dealers that buy the same kind of stuff that we do, that a lot of the stuff would actually turn into a loss because they didn't have someone like Alex to be able to fix the stuff very cheaply, and we can still get out of it, or we can still actually make money on a lot of that stuff. All right, next question comes in from VTG. Thanks so much for these videos. Are you allowed to inspect these cars at auctions, actually driving them and using a scan tool? If yes, when do you inspect them, before or after you place a bid? Also, do you have to be an owner of a used car dealership to participate in these auctions, or can a regular Joe Schmo join the party? All right, first question. So are we able to check out these cars before we bid on them? Yes, we can. So a lot of these auctions allow test drives too. They'll do it maybe a day before or a few hours before the auction goes through. Some auctions don't. So it just depends on the auction, but all of them will have the cars out in a lot, and we're able to go before the auction and actually crank them up, put them in gear, scan them. So I've got a code reader, and my code reader will scan the engine, the transmission, and the OBD2. So I'm able to know probably about 80% of what's going on with that car just by scanning it. So that's very helpful for us. Next question is, when do you inspect them? Before you place a bid. So yeah, you have to check them out before you bid, because once you bid on the car and you win it, it's your car. So it doesn't matter if you check it out after you bid. It's your car. Once you raise your hand and the auctioneer drops the hammer and says sold, that's when it's your car. So it doesn't matter if you check it out before or after. It's still going to be the same outcome as far as you bidding and then you getting the car. All right, next question. Do you have to have a dealer's license? Not just a used car dealership, but a dealer's license to get into these auctions. Yes, you have to have a dealer's license to get all the auctions that you see on all these videos. They are all dealer only. So I have to have a dealer's license before I can even walk into the gate of a lot of these auctions. There are public auctions, but I don't go into any because most of the time those cars are just absolute junk. So I have to actually present my dealer's license to be able to get into the systems of all of these auctions, to be able to get bidder numbers, to be able to bid on the cars in these auctions. All right, this next question comes from Name. Do you catch heat from dealers who are threatened by you giving up inside baseball of dealerships? So the answer might be surprising to you, but no, we don't catch any heat at all. So a lot of times I have dealers at all these auctions. They actually watch my videos. They come up to me, guys that I didn't know before I started making this stuff on YouTube, and come up and shake my hand and say, hey, I watch all your videos. You're exactly right about what's going on. And you know what? We want prices to drop too. I think what's going on is ridiculous. And thank you for making these videos, because they're really helpful for even us to be able to see what's going on in the market. So no, I don't catch a whole lot of heat. Actually, these guys thank me for these videos coming out. I've not actually received one negative comment. I don't know if somebody would come up straight to me and say, hey, what you're doing is stupid anyway. So that might be why I haven't heard that yet, because most people aren't like that, even used car dealers. But really just all the dealers that I've talked to, they've appreciated what I've done, and for the most part completely agree with everything that I'm saying and everything that I'm seeing and showing to you guys. All right, well, that is the end of this question and answer session. I really appreciate you guys for sending in the questions so we could make this video. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. I do one of these every week. I do auction videos throughout the week. I do a lot of market updates. Please like these videos, and really just thank you guys so much for all the support. And please leave us more questions down in the comments so we can have some questions we can answer next week. And I hope you guys have a great day.